Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm glad you could make it. So the subject of today, it's going to be a request that was made on the Facebook group. And the idea was to make a Christmas tree with text, kind of like it appears here. And this is very timely because we recently released this feature that allows you to make the text with tails and hearts. So what that refers to is these little tails that kind of pop out of this sort of script text. Yeah, greetings everyone. We have people from Ohio and San Diego. Yeah, thank you so much. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments as I go. So I think let's get started. So I'm gonna try and build this kind of tree from scratch to show you all the different kind of aspects of the process, and I'm gonna try to be fairly organized. So here we go. So I have a Cuttle project. I'm just gonna give it a name to start by clicking up here. So I'm gonna call it the Christmas tree with names. And I'll probably keep on referring to that picture for sort of inspiration. The first thing I want to do is sort of sketch out the tree. And of course, you could always bring an SVG if you from another source. If you purchase it or something, you can go here and import an SVG. But I'm going to build it from scratch, so I get the opportunity to show you a couple of tricks. So I'm going to start by naming this component the tree, because I'm going to be reusing that fair amount. And what I want to do is give myself a source, give myself a sort of rough outline or rough size of what I want to do. And so looking at these, I'm guessing these are like, 5 inches or so tall. We're going to be able to change the scale later, but let's start with something like that. So I'm going to grab a rectangle from the left, and I'm just going to size it to 5 inches tall. And then about 3 inches wide. And that's kind of going to be the rough size of my tree. And so I'm not going to be cutting this rectangle. I'm just going to have it there as a guide. So what I can do is I can select it and I can go here to the right, and there is an option that says show guides. So what that turns it slightly reddish, which means it's not going to be a cut path. And so I think the rough size of the tree, the rough shape is just going to be a series of spikes. So I'm going to draw it from scratch. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, and then I'm going to start up here in the midpoint, and I'm going to click to add an anchor. And my first pass is going to be rough. So I'm going to go click to add another anchor, then click to add another one, and click to add another one, and I think something like 3 spikes like that, or maybe 4. And then I'm gonna click to add another one, and I probably want to finish it with some sort of trunk. I don't know, I want 3 or 4, but anyway, let's start with that. And then I'm gonna finish it here, and then give it a sort of trunk. So I only drew, and then to finish this, I can just click here. I only drew half of the tree, and it doesn't look super pretty right now, but I can sort of go back and tweak some things. So the trick here is that I want to reflect that line, so to get a sense of what it looks like. So I'm going to click on that line that I just drew, and then hit it modify, and then there's this option called mirror repeat. I haven't used this very much in the live stream, so I think it's worthwhile showing you. So that kind of reflects the line to give me a sense of the tree that I'm trying to draw. And the nice thing about using that mirror repeat modifier is that I can still go back and edit the line, and it will edit it with the symmetry applied to it. Those of you that use Procreate might be familiar with this idea of drawing with some symmetry, which is a sort of fun thing to do. So I can double click onto the line, and I can sort of go back and adjust it. I think the tree has this, like, the spike kind of points up a little bit. So when I point it up, maybe I'm going to point these up a little bit, make the trunk a bit more reasonable. I think it's reasonable to take a little bit out of the rectangle I made myself to give it that sort of kind of triangular. And that's good enough. Let's move on from here. I could spend a lot of time doing this. So now, in order to make this into a shape, because these are two separate paths, actually they're reflected, I want to join them right at the point at the intersection. At this point, I could get rid of this rectangle. I'm going to make it invisible. Because if I were to cut these, then the laser would kind of cut this one first and this one next, but it wouldn't, which would work. But like, for example, if I were to apply a fill to these right now, you can see, actually that works, okay. But like, for example, if these were separate like so, then I would have that line in the middle, which I don't want. I actually want them to be joined. And so there's a way of joining these paths, which is this other modifier called merge paths. So that shows me that this little red endpoint here is showing me that it's merging it exactly at that point. And so that became useful now, because if I move that around, you'll see that it immediately connects it because of the merge paths. It's making that connection, and so it's making it into a single shape, and that's what I wanted. Actually, I don't mind this pointing down a bit. And then to give it like the final kind of look, I'm gonna select it and add the round corners, which gives it a kind of nicer, kind of more friendly look. I think these you can see that it has like kind of rounded. And we can just like change the radius a little bit to make it to. And of course, even though we applied all these different modifiers and we have these rounded corners, we can still go back and change things. If I double click into the line, I can like move things around a little bit. I actually enjoy moving things around once the rounded corners are applied, because I didn't worry too much about making these rounded. I just made a bunch of spiky things, but like I can see here that, how the final tree actually kind of looks. So anyway, not the prettiest tree, but I'm sure you can spend a bit more time making it nicer, or you can just get one from another source. But let's go with this one. So now what I want to do is make this list of names. So we have these names over here, and so I'm going to create another component. Because I want to keep the names separate for now. I'm going to add a component here. I'm going to call it the names. And I'm going to place the tree first, just as a guide to see where I'm placing those names. And the names are going to be using this new type of text that we added. So if I search here for text, you'll see that there is a whole text category. Actually, let me move myself here to the right. So there is this whole text category here on the left, and then towards the bottom there is one that is called connected, which we've used quite a lot. But there is this new one called connected text with tails, and so this one is fun because let's drag it in place. I'm going to actually change the alignment to the center. So this one is fun because it adds these tails. Whatever you type, whatever name you type here, it will connect it with the tails. And if you add two names, it will connect those. If you add them with a space, notice that when I add the space, it will connect them with a heart. And then there, right here, we can select the. Right here, we can select how the between style is. So there is a heart, there is auto, and then there is none if you just want the heart added. So that's something to know. But in this case, we don't necessarily want that. So we want the names to be a little smaller, so they kind of match the tree. So I'm gonna change the size here. So something like 40. I'm gonna bring it up. Just gonna place it roughly what I want it to be. And then I want a list of names. And so let's do, 4 names or so. So I can take this one, I can duplicate it. I'm gonna right click on it and hit duplicate. So it just places it right in there. So I'm gonna do the same here. If I right click on it and I see there is the duplicate command, there's also the keyboard shortcut here, which is Command D, which I'm gonna use for the next one. I'm gonna hit Command D to get another one and place it a little bit lower. And then let's add a last one. And so right now I'm just kind of creating the overall design, and then we'll talk about making it more into a template or automating things. So let's place it like so. And then I think with the tree idea, sometimes we get these names kind of going from small to big. So I can actually try and change the size here a little bit, maybe like 42 for the next one, 44 for the next one, 46 for the next one. We could change that later. And then, of course, I want like different names. I don't know. Let's take inspiration from this one: Amy, Jace, Riley, and Thomas. So let's change the name, Amy. Oh, importantly, for the tails, you want it to be lowercase. Because if I do uppercase here, it only does the tail on one side. So let's do a longer one. Amanda? Just to see that things are kind of working. Yeah, maybe that needs to be a little smaller. Okay, so this is kind of like the overall look. And then this one has the year on top. So I could I'm just gonna grab another connected text for the year. Also make it about 40. Make the alignment to the center. And let's try and, we want to type the year, 2024. And probably some font that is closer to the one that we have there. Let me see what we find on the Pro fonts. Something like that. Not ideal, but we'll go with it. So the reason I wanted the names to be separate is because I want to do this operation with the names. So I want the names to be cut out right at the line where the tree is. So if we see here, in this example, they engraved the names, but the engraving ends right at the tree line. So I want to do this operation. So I think we're gonna select everything here, and then the one that's gonna work here is called the intersect. So the idea is that like whatever two shapes are intersecting with each other, that's what that's what's kept. So that's gonna get rid of these tails that are flying around, which I don't dislike, but like let's stick to the inspiration. So I'm gonna select everything, go to modify, and then there's this one down here called intersect. And the reason it didn't work is because I made a mistake. I actually don't want to do it here. Let's do it separately. I only had this tree here as a guide. Okay, so I wanted to keep the names separate for the same reason, for the way this didn't work here. So what I want to do is actually create another component where I'm doing this operation. So I'm going to add a new component here, and I'm going to call it the front of the design. And here in the front of the design, I'm actually going to have the tree shape. Then I'm going to add the names into it, which kind of by default kind of groups everything. And now I can apply that intersection because now the names, all that text is grouped together. And so when I select these two, and I apply the intersect, then I should remain only with the only thing that remains is the names after they've been like cut. I don't love the way this little tail ended up happening there. So I can actually edit that. I can like double click. So I go into this like focus mode, and then I can move the text a little bit down. And then after I've done that operation, because this is going to be one laser operation, which is engraving the names. And in order to signal that, I'm going to change the fill. I'm going to do this pink fill. So that's one operation. And then another different operation is going to be to cut out that tree shape. So I'm going to add the tree shape again onto this front component. So hopefully that order of operations kind of made sense to you. I have the names cut out, but then I also have the cutout of the tree. So that's an outside cut. So I'm going to make it into a red cut, the red outline. The other detail I want to add right here is I want a little hole, like a little hanging hole. And so I'm going to just place it right there. Let's make that hanging hole about, let's change the scale of the hanging hole to make it about an eighth of an inch, 0.125. And that works for me. So now I have the front of the tree and I have all the names. I have the hole. I'm going to do this other thing again where I grab the hole and make it into a separate component. That's going to make sense here, because I'm going to be reusing it. So I'm going to right click on the hole, and there is this option called extract as component. So now if you look at it, you'll see that there is another component here that got added, and that's that hole. So I'm just going to call it the hanging hole. I'm just going to, this doesn't change very much. If I move it here, I'm just organizing things for myself. And then there is the hanging hole. So the neat thing about this is that it preserves the position of the hole. So we know that it's positioned here at -2 inches high. So, all right, let's finish the design. So we have the front, and then we want a backer. So because this one, if we look at it carefully, they have a front section, in this case in black over here, and then they have a backer that has like an offset. And so this offset operation is something that people do very, very frequently. So I'm going to add a new component, and I'm going to call it the backer. And so what the backer is again, the tree shape that we created. I'm going to be careful to place it right on the origin at 0. And then to that, we apply an offset or an expand. So I'm going to go to modify, and then there is this option here called expand or offset. Yeah, offset in parentheses. And so as you can see, it adds this distance to the expansion. Something like that is reasonable. And then on top of that one, we also want the hole. So that's the reason I kind of separated it into a component. So I could like go ahead and grab it and place it right here. And so now, now you can get my organization here. I have a hole, I have a tree that is just the tree shape. I have the names separated, and then I have the front, which is a combination of the tree outline plus the names being cut, and I have a backer. And then to continue my organization, I'm going to create a preview component, which is a combination of the front of the tree and then the backer. So here in this preview, I can see how much the expand is applying. And then probably to keep on being organized, I want to have a cut component. So I'm going to create another component, and I'm going to call it the cut. And so in this one, I'm going to add the front on one side and then the backer on the other side. Just for convenience, it's nice to have them separated like that, because sometimes when you export these, you might in your laser cutting software, you might have to like go grab this shape and move it aside, which is not convenient. So it's nice to have it like that. And now I can actually kind of present it as a kind of like a template. So I'm gonna, it is a template. So I'm gonna go to the README. This README, if you're not familiar with it, is a section where you can like write notes, you can write some text about your project. But additionally, you can add the components you created. So whenever you start typing, you get this menu that appears right there. So I'm going to add a component. And here we get the component selection of all the components we created. And in general, I want to add the preview. So that's the preview as I see it. So here, it kind of simplifies things. It presents them in a way in which you can just not worry too much about the editor and just download them. And then additionally, I want to add another component here with this little plus sign, and I'm going to add the cut. So those are like the ones that you would present or just use once your design is done. So the preview where you see things, and then the cut where you where you download it. But let's make it more template-like because you know, maybe you want to do a one-off and this is enough for you, but maybe you want to do several. And then you want to, you know, be able to change these names easily. Because right now, in order to change the names, we would have to go here and then double click on the name, or simply click on the name and change it. But I have to click, then change it to another name, then click it and change it to another name, and that can get tedious. So let's make it a little bit, you know, a little bit nicer. Yeah, one question that I have is, so when you added the hole to the backer, it lines up with the front. Yes, correct. Because the hanging hole itself, it's positioned in relationship to the center of the canvas, the center of this line. So whenever I place it anywhere, it's going to preserve that position. So when I place it on the backer, as long as everything is placed, you know, the reference is the center of the canvas. So the origin is placed right at the center. Then that's kind of like my reference point. And so when I place this hole, you'll notice that when I click on it, it also has the reference as the origin is the reference point. And so as long as that's 0, that's going to be aligned. That's how I made that happen. But now let's continue with like making the names more easier to type. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to that names component, and I'm gonna start with the year. So if I click on the year, then I have all the options here, and this is the text. You know, maybe 2025. And so I want to grab the text and extract it as a component. So I can click on the 3 dots. There is an option. Sorry. My mistake, extract it as a parameter. So there is an option here that says extract as parameter. And so that puts the text right here. And I'm just going to make it like project wide. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to say move parameter to project. That means that that text, which I'm going to rename the year, it will appear everywhere, you know, even if I change components. And so now I can simply change the year here. 2024. And because it's right here, if I go to the README, you see that it showed up on the README. So, you know, now I can change it here, which is what I wanted. But what I want to do is the same operation to all the names. So I'm going to go name by name. So I'm going to go to this one, extract it as a parameter. I'm going to call it name1. Once again, I'm going to move it to belong to the whole project, and so on and so forth. I'm going to do the next one, extract as parameter, name2, move it to a project, and the next one, extract as parameter. This could possibly be more automated, but I'm doing it by hand right now, so you kind of get a sense for the sort of structure of the project. And finally, this one, move it to the project and call it name4. So what I ended up with here is, if I look at the README, I have all the names, and now I can kind of change them to what I like. So, and then they immediately update. And most importantly, they update in all the different components that we created. So we get the nice cut. Let's try another one here. It's working. I think one additional thing I would like to add is the ability to scale it. And I'm going to show you how one approach to the scale. So here we have a combination of two components. We have the front and we have the back. And so I want to be able to scale them equally by the same amount if I want to change the size a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the components here on the left. And let's scale the front by, I'm going to select everything. I'm going to select everything and I'm going to group it. So everything scales equally. So I'm going to group it, or Command G. And that means now that if I look here on the right, there is a transform. So I'm going to click on the transform. And so now it's just going to be, the scale is is 1. But if I change the scale, everything scales accordingly. So let's keep it to 1. But I want that same scale to apply also to the backer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new parameter, and I'm going to call that the scale. And I'm just going to call it 1 for now, or 100% to what I designed it. And then I want this scale to apply to the whole group. So I want to essentially sort of grab it here. Sorry, I'm going to essentially kind of like plug it in to here. So I'm going to type scale. And so what that did is that now these number, let's call it 100, 100%, these numbers should apply to that. And I would now want this number to also apply to the backer. So I'm going to do the same operation. I'm going to move over to the backer component. I'm going to select everything, group it, and then apply the transform. And so here on the scale, I'm going to type scale. So that effectively means that this scale applies to both the backer and the front. And I can confirm that by going to the README. And then if I change the scale, you'll see how everything scales accordingly. And everything scales and overlaps. Let me show you the quick solution to this overlap situation. So for the cut component, I'm going to go here. Instead of placing them kind of manually, there is another kind of simple option, which is, let me delete that. It's called the auto layout. And when I showed it to people, they were kind of happy with it. So I'm going to show you again. So I'm going to search for auto, and then there's this one here called auto layout. And I just place it in the center. And the way this one works is that when you, oops, moved it too far. When you look at its parameters over here, it has this, has the option to type the name of the component. So I'm just gonna delete those. And my components are called front, and the other one is called the backer. If I start typing, I get this kind of autofill. So, and then when I press play, I should get, both of those, the front and the backer. And in this case, I'm going to get rid of this is the stroke. So it applies the same stroke to everything, but I'm going to get rid of it. So it retains the, if you want them to be side by side, I think I can place them in brackets. That should keep them on the same line, so to speak. Yeah. And so the beauty of these auto layout is that even if I change the scale, it just kind of spaces things out accordingly. So this is just like a nice to have, and you can even change the spacing. So yeah, this was like the quick way of like getting to this template. The font size. I'm gonna answer this last question. The font size I can change by going to my names component And then each one of these has a size right here. Let me close this to make it clear. So here is the size of the font. So I can change it individually. Right now I set it up so it's changed individually. You could add this font size to the list of parameters if you wanted to, but I think we're running out of time. So yes, thank you for watching. I'm gonna publish this template as a starting point for your own templates. I'll do it in a bit. And this video is also going to be posted on the YouTube channel and on Facebook. So I think that's good. I appreciate you coming here and watching and asking questions. This is great. So I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.